Hi, everyone. Today we're talking to Chris Murphy, who is the founder and CEO of Lucky Plus Dog. He has this wonderful line of dog collars with trackers called Fi. And you're wondering, well, why are you having him on? Because he has worked a new business that supports not only rescues, but also people in need of work. So now let's see what Chris and I talked about. It was fascinating.
Do Pets Matter? 10 years ago, with my iPhone and a script, I recorded the first episode of the Ultimate Pet Resolution Summit, which chatted with experts about conflicts over animals. Our conversations were intimate, honest, and illustrated how disagreements over animals occur and how those disagreements can reshape people's lives and relationships. In November 2019, I started Why Do Pets Matter, a new podcast that continued these informative discussions. I'm so excited to have you here with me, continuing my exploration into a more meaningful conversation about why pets matter to all of us. My guests and I will share ideas, stories, and experiences straight from the heart, unscripted and holistic. From the bravest moments to the most brokenhearted, we will explore how to resolve disagreements over animals differently. One thing I know for sure is I want to have more meaningful conversations that will help all of us unlock that deeply felt human-animal bond that drives the emotions of conflict.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Why Do Pets Matter? I'm Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law Mediation, and I'm here with my great friend, Chris Murphy, who is the founder and CEO of Lucky Dog, which is a line of collars for pets, but also he has partnered with Fi so that you can buy one of his beautiful collars and put a Fi tracking device on it so that you can keep track of where your pets are and how much exercise they're getting. And that will make you then buy an Apple Watch so you can track how much you have to catch up with your dog. Chris, thank you so much for being here on Why Do Pets Matter?
Thanks for having me. It's been fun. It's a privilege to be on the show.
Well, we have to have full disclosure here. Chris is also the owner of two Irish setters. And as everyone knows here, I have Irish setters. And so we had met at many dog shows over the years. And when I realized that Lucky Dog not only sold beautiful dog collars with the Fi on it, but they give some of their proceeds to the benefit of rescues and other great 501c3s that help dogs. I said, you have to come on and talk about why pets matter to you. So that's the question we ask, Chris.
Yep.
Why do pets matter to you?
Gosh, you've probably heard it before, and I'll say it again. For me, I think being an entrepreneur, we're always kind of looking into the future and planning ahead and that sort of thing. And for me, I think pets, they live in the present, right? And they always kind of bring us back to the present and keep us grounded in that way. And so for me, I think it's that that reminder of just that, hey, live in the moment. Let's enjoy now. And along with that, as you probably heard a bunch of times, that unconditional love. They don't care if what your social status is. They don't care how much money you have. They just want to love and be loved. And so for me, I think that's really important, and it's just a reminder for all of us to stay anchored to that. So for me, that's why pets matter.
I love that because they do ground us. I think Roger Karras, I use this quote very often, once said, dogs may not be our whole life, but they make our lives whole.
Yeah, I love that. I've heard that quote before. It's great. It's true. Very true.
Yeah. It's very true. And they're all forgiving. They're all knowing. They know everything you're thinking. Even if you think they don't, they do. And
That's
you're
right.
right. They keep us grounded. They keep us present. And that's the most important piece about having these dogs. And of course, you have, Irish setters like I do, which probably when you're stopped on the street, people say, oh, I knew an Irish setter in the 70s, and they were the craziest dogs I've ever seen. And then you say, well, thank you. And keep
walking.
Because Irish setters
or sometimes you end up finishing their sit-ins.
Yeah.
Yes, they were really popular in the 70s. Oh my
Yes, and
gosh,
they're
you're
crazy.
so right.
Yeah, you're so right. And they're crazy. And you know what? They really have come a long way. We had talked before that I'm expecting a litter of puppies, and
Yeah.
I will bring that to the Why Do Pets Matter podcast group. I'll do a special podcast just with that. However, it's a 6 month commitment. So if you get your puppy at what, 10 or 12 weeks, right, Chris? You got your babies
Yeah.
at 10 or 12 weeks. You
Yep.
need to donate 6 months of your life to making them good citizens. And that's like 10 minutes, 3 times a day.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree. I think until you've owned an Irish setter, you know, I think they are a misunderstood breed. I mean, they are playful, they're smart, but they need a job. They need something to do. They got to be stimulated, and so you just have to make sure all the right elements are in place to ensure. But then at the same time, I welcome a little bit of that
It
craziness.
keeps it interesting. It keeps it interesting. I always
Definitely.
call them the Jerry Maguires of the dog world. Show me the money.
Yeah, yeah, and they're
They
always
are
up for
never gonna they're never
yeah.
gonna do something for you just because you asked.
And there's always, as even when they get older, there's always a sense of youthfulness. That I've got one that just carries her stuffed bird everywhere, and it's just like I said, as old as they get older, but they don't inside, and so I
Yeah,
love that they're always like a child at heart. So
I can relate.
um,
I'm getting older and I still think I can do what I could do. And as I was putting up the whelping box, I went, I am getting too old for this.
do you know how many puppies you're having?
I think we're having between 4 and 6, maybe. We
Okay.
had a few that were popping in and popping out, and we weren't sure if we were double counting. But that's a nice litter for us because it's
Oh,
manageable. One of our
yeah.
friends just had a litter of 19, and 16 survived, and I think I
I
would have
think I
to.
saw that post.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think I would have to shoot myself. So I'm just sharing that with the rest of you because as a breeder, and Chris probably knows this from the breeders that he's gotten his dogs from, we spend at least 2 to 3 weeks almost in the box because we want to make sure that the mother is safe, that the babies are safe. Um,
Right.
and it's really part of what good breeders do. We don't just leave them to survival of the fittest. We
Yeah.
really make sure they're, well socialized, touched all the time. So anyway,
Yeah.
but back to you, Chris. So you got into this line because you really wanted to figure out a way how to give back to rescues and 501(c)(3)s that support really great pet related uh,
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, my background is, in addition to Lucky Dog, I also own and operate a couple of Aveda lifestyle hair salons in Austin, Texas, and I've been doing that for over 20 years, and so my background is in the service business, and so around 2019, I was getting a little bored and was getting the itch to do something different. And I wanted to create a new company, but I wanted it to be product based. So, and I knew I wanted to do something online, e-commerce, just because there's less overhead. And with the internet, you can reach a wider audience. And so I knew I wanted to have the e-commerce and I wanted to be a product based business. But I was trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do and what I wanted to sell. And growing up, with pets, I was that kid that had the aquarium, the hamster, the guinea pig. I was in 4-H. I raised animals, and so I'm an animal lover at heart, and I love dogs. And so I felt like, what can I do to make an impact in the world of dogs? So I knew I wanted to have a product based company that was e-commerce, but was also purpose driven, that had some sort of mission to accomplish. And so enter in kind of dog gear, and how could I create a dog gear company that was e-commerce, and so that was where the idea kind of came from, and the motivation behind it was really to create a vehicle, really to raise money that I could then donate to the animal welfare, and just um, rescue groups, that sort of thing. And so that was back in 2019, and the timing couldn't have been better because it was right before the pandemic. And as we all know, during the pandemic, I believe everybody went out and either bought one or two dogs or rescued a couple of dogs. And so it took about a year to kind of get everything together and in place, and figure out how to build a website and e-commerce. Because again, I come from a very service-based background, and so ordering, trying to find where these suppliers for materials, and finding people to help me with equipment, all that kind of fun stuff. It took about a year to do all that. And then we launched, and a year after launching, we had the opportunity to enter into a partnership agreement with the makers of Fi, which is a GPS tracking device for dogs, and it's unique in that it's not a device that actually they do have a new version that can actually clip on any kind of collar, but up until recently, the device connected with a couple of end links into a collar, and so they didn't want to go into the collar business. They wanted to just focus on making a really good GPS tracking device. And so they were smart in creating what they call a kind of a makers community where we could apply to make collar bands that retrofit their device. And so we submitted our prototypes to them and got approved. And through that partnership, that really is what kind of opened the door and exposed our company to customers on a kind of a nationwide level. And so through that partnership, it's been great because, as you just mentioned, the idea of being able to kind of track your dog. I mean, it's 2025. There's no reason why any dog should ever get lost, and if they're lost, you should be able to find your dog, with these GPS tracking devices. And so we also donate a percentage of our sales to these rescue groups and like you said, other groups that help animal welfare. But in addition to that, we're also helping people take better care of their pets. I like to think we're kind of fulfilling the mission that we set out to begin with, and so it's been fun, yeah. And we continue to grow, and we're looking at potentially adding different products and that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's it, kind of in a nutshell.
I love it because, as
Yeah.
with my map plan, it's really important to be able to keep track of your pet. Microchips are great. They're one way to keep track of your pet. However,
Yeah.
to be able to put something on their collar that tells you where they are is really a breakthrough for me. I mean, we have it on our little English Cocker Spaniel right now. The Irish Setter, he sticks too close to me, so we're just going to save that for the new puppy. But
Yeah.
it tells us where she is and how much exercise she gets and whether or not
Mhm.
she's, in the property. And I love that it alerts you that she's left the
Mhm.
perimeter. Because when we take them for
Yeah.
walks, my husband and I both get alerts that she's left
Yep.
the perimeter. And we go, oh, good.
Yeah, and
She is with us.
it's working, yeah. And they continue to make improvements to the software. I mean, it's incredible. The latest release, which just happened, probably about 2 months ago, they're incorporating more and more into like health tracking, down to how much water they're drinking, and whether it's 100% accurate. It's probably not 100% accurate, but they'll get there. But through AI, they're able to really almost kind of like our Apple Watches, or if you have an Oura Ring, kind of tracking our health data. That then, when we go to the doctor, we can share that and help
That is
collaborate
so
with the doctor
important.
with all that.
It's so
Yeah,
important
yeah,
because it's getting a
yeah.
daily read. And I think it's
Mhm.
for cats too, right?
Now that they did just released what they call the Phi Mini, which is a smaller tracker, which is really designed for smaller dogs and cats now. So they're really kind of trying to enter into a new market. I prefer the original. That's more in line. It's flatter on the neck, and it's not this thing that's connected to the collar. But yeah, now they have the mini, and so they're incorporating more features, if you will, and trying to reach a bigger audience. But I have to say, I never thought that, like, even barking, it'll even track how much your dog is barking. And you might think to yourself, why would I want to know that? And so, funny story, we just went on a vacation to Maine, and our two Irish setters, as you can imagine, they like to bark. And sometimes they like to bark at midnight outside because we have a doggy door. And so we have to be mindful of that because our neighbors, can hear the dogs barking, and we don't want to, upset the neighbors, and
Right.
rightfully so. And so we have this doggy door, and so when we were on vacation in Maine, we were so worried that the dogs were going to go outside the doggy door, and bark, and the pet sitter wouldn't know to bring them back in. And so we could pull up the app, and I could see when they were barking and if they were barking at midnight or not. And so it gave me that peace of mind knowing that, hey, everything's good, the neighbors are happy, all is well in the world. So use
Because
case,
neighbors always
for
know when you're on vacation and the pet sitters are there because things happen that never happen usually.
Right, exactly. So you just never know what kind of use case you're going to run into, but that was very helpful for us. And so, but water, like it'll even tell you, if how much water your dog is drinking, and so that might alert you to, it compares to regular in water intake, and if there's any kind of variance there, that might lead to maybe a health issue that you need to check into. And so, there's more benefits to just getting lost and having to track it. But one of the other things that I like about the Fi tracking device is the community that they create through the social element of the app. And so when you first receive your Fi tracking device and you're setting it up, you can enter in what kind of breed you have, where you're located, and all that fun stuff. And then it'll kind of put you into it'll kind of rank your dog against other dogs of the same breed, and then it'll also rank your dog based on activity, like number of steps, based on the city that you're in, the state that you're in, and so you can kind of see where your dog compares. And so it kind of creates this camaraderie and this like friendly competition, which I think encourages people to take their dogs for walks, that sort of thing. But I've met um, so many wonderful Irish setter owners through this app. It's got the whole social media element where you can upload pictures and people can comment. And so I think they've done a really good job just overall with just not only, GPS tracking for lost dogs, but also creating community, health tracking. And so, all bias aside, I do feel like it's one of the leaders in that space. There's more than one GPS tracking device for dogs, but I feel like Fi's done a really good job uh, with it. So yeah,
Well, I
and I'm
know
glad
about
to hear that. And I'm glad to hear that you've enjoyed yours.
Well, I
Since
know
you've
the
purchased.
community because my husband joined the community, of course, of English Cocker Spaniels. He was very troubled to hear that Stella was 75th on the amount he moved. So he now has me walking her. He doesn't walk
See?
the extra walk,
Yeah,
but we walk the Irish, like probably you do, for 2 miles. So now
yeah,
Stella's up at
yeah.
like, I think 6 or 7 because
There
she's
you
walking
go.
4 miles a day. Um,
Yeah,
and then of course she runs around the backyard. So she's got that going for her. But
yeah.
I love the fact that so you had an established business, you had salons,
Mhm.
which were great, and it's word of mouth, and everybody knows everybody's everything,
Yeah,
especially about their pets.
yeah.
In the salon. I know I talked to my salon person about my pets and her pets, but this really
Right.
gave you an entree into creating even a link between your original business and this new business that sort of fed your soul for that pet aspect.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I love the service-based business, and that's we live to serve, right? And so, there's a lot of carryover between the two. Now we're just serving in a different way. But yeah, I've always had a passion for animals and for dogs in particular. And so at this stage of my life, I was really ready for something different and something new. And I wanted something that's because, obviously, like as you said, you have a relationship with your hairstylist. And so, a lot of times the relationship with clients and their hairstylists are oftentimes stronger than even with their spouse, believe it or not. And conversations that happen between their hairstylist and
It's the
their
cone of
clients.
silence, Chris. It's the cone of
Yes.
silence.
Yes, and so there is a level of service, a high level of service there that we experience with our clients, and so. But yeah, I think for me it was is I wanted to create a company that could do something similar, but in the dog world, right? And so just give back and make an impact in that space, and so um, it's been very fulfilling experience, and yeah,
That
in
may come
addition.
from your upbringing as well, because you said you were in 4-H, you had every animal
Oh
known
yeah,
to man. So did you? So I think you're in Texas now, right? So did you grow up there?
yeah.
Did
I grew up
land?
in a really small town in deep South Texas, right outside Corpus Christi, Texas, and so, um, yeah, very huge agriculture, community down there, and but yeah, active in the 4-H growing up in high school, junior high and high school, and like I said, I was that kid that had all the pet things, hamster cages and guinea pigs and
Fish.
fish, all that stuff. And so so yeah, it's always been a part of my life. And so it's been great being able to get back into that space, and then make an impact through the business, and utilize the business as a vehicle to raise money and to, you know, I've tried going to donate time at different rescue groups and stuff, but I would be a foster failure, and yeah. To me, I feel like, in my own opinion, I feel like raising money and money, can go a lot further in making an impact with research and with rescue groups and care of animals than volunteering time, which is also important. Me running multiple businesses and having limited time, I felt like, this would make a much bigger impact. And so it's been fun seeing, how much money we've been able to donate and where it's going and the impact that it's making. And these days, with our website, it's fantastic. We don't have to do anything. Anytime someone makes a purchase on our website, everything is calculated in the background. We have an app plugin that just sits on top of our website and is monitoring all of the sales activity, and it calculates how much we want to donate, and then it'll even send the donation directly to the nonprofit on a monthly basis. And then we just get an email report that tells us how much was donated, which is fantastic. So it's fun to watch that money get donated and see where it's going, and how much.
Because you're
The more we
supporting.
sell, the more we donate. Yeah.
That's right. You're supporting dogs in need. And now we know that there are a lot of dogs in need. We talked originally about the MAP plan where this FI helps. I mean, I always use it in my MAP programs. I always suggest take a look. You might want to add this to your MAP plan so you know where your dog is. God
Mhm.
forbid something happened to you while you're traveling. If the FI
Mhm.
is on your dog and it gets away, you might be able to find it more easily. It just is something that's so important, and you created an avenue wherein people can take better care of their pets.
Yeah.
And
And what's really exciting is they just released Fi is now available in Mexico and Canada. So up
oh, so the
until probably,
GPS is now there. How great is
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, they just announced that like 2 weeks ago. Before, it was only available in the US, and so now it's a whole.
In the contiguous 50,
Yep.
49 states, right?
Yep. Yep. So we're gearing up for international shipping.
Yay. Yeah, because
So
it's so
yeah.
important. As you said, a lot of people got dogs during the COVID, and now their lives have changed because they've gone back to work or whatever, and some dogs are going to shelters. And I never criticize people who bring their dogs to shelters, because shelters are there for a reason, in that, people are losing their jobs, people are having
Mhm.
issues,
Yeah.
boarding pets. I really like bringing it to a shelter, rather than just leaving it in the house when you leave. I mean, that's really
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, and in the work that I do, I help people try to figure out how to move forward. And for you, you've created
Mhm.
one of those things that help people take the best care of their pets.
Yeah, and for me too, it's also peace of mind. I mean, there's a very slim chance that my dogs will ever get lost. Because like your dogs, mine are like Velcro dogs. But it's just that peace of mind knowing that when I do go to work, I mean, we live sort of out in the country, and our neighborhood is close to a country road, but it's a very busy country road. And so if our dogs got out, there's a risk that they could get hit by a car. And
Yeah.
so for me, that's probably not going to ever happen, because we maintain our backyard and a fence and all that. And so, but it's that peace of mind. And for me, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
Is it 100% accurate as far as the GPS? It's pretty darn accurate. Sometimes it goes a little wonky, but it's better than nothing at all.
Right.
But it's pretty darn accurate, and it's getting better and better and better. And it's amazing, how accurate it is, considering, these devices are not, I mean, they're talking directly to a satellite. That's the way the technology works. And that's what makes it different from, let's say, like an Apple AirTag, where the Apple AirTag talks to your phone, and then that talks to a server, your router in your home or wherever, and then that goes, that's how it communicates. And so if your dog has an AirTag and it goes out into the country, and there's no iPhone or any Apple device close by, it's off the radar. You cannot. It's the difference between that and the Fi is that the Fi dog's the tracking device is talking directly to a satellite, and so That's important. You want that, especially if it's in an area that's not it's rural or this. Yeah.
Well, that was the
So
interesting piece when I brought them home to put on Stella, the English cocker.
yeah.
My husband says, "Yeah, but I have an Apple tag." And I said, "Yes, but you have to be near her to use the Apple
Hmm.
tag." I said, "Or
Right.
somebody with an Apple device has to be near her to know where
Right.
we are." I said, "From what Chris told me, I said, this is going to work if she goes across the golf
Yep.
course and she's on the
Yeah.
other side of the golf course." And he goes,
Yeah.
"Really?"
Yep.
And so we tried it, and he was on the other side of the golf course and he could locate her using Pi. Where he couldn't locate her, he didn't take his phone. But I could locate
Hmm.
her because I
Yeah.
was on my Apple device. And he goes, "Wow, this is really important because, we, like you, we don't
Yeah.
live on a busy road. When I was looking for a new house, I was looking for the safest place for my dogs to be with
Yeah.
very few neighbors. Or if they had neighbors, I would be able, because
Far away.
they bark. And it's not
Yeah.
that, like you, that I allow them to bark incessantly because it drives me nuts, like it drives you nuts. So it's not like
Yeah.
we let them bark incessantly, but
Yeah.
dogs bark. Uh,
Yeah.
so and we have little critters in the weeds going out to the river, so there's something to bark at. Uh,
Yeah.
but I love the fact that I will know, it'll beep and let me know that she's off the perimeter of our property, maybe going across the golf course. And I have 3 holes before
Yeah.
she gets to the very, very busy road like yours. It's a country road,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
very, very busy and full of really big trick pickups with really big tires. Uh,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and those make a lot of noise. And I hope that she would run away from them if she heard it, but who knows? So it
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
keeps your pet safe. And the fact
Yeah.
that you created this so that we could enable rescues to benefit from every purchase is brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, it's a twofold, I feel like. And then if I didn't mention this before, but in addition to the money that we donate and then the partnership with Phi, as we've continued to grow here in Austin, we need more help. And so I'll be honest, when I started this company, I started in one of my spare bedrooms, and I didn't know how to sew a thing. I was making the collars. I was finding out where to source the equipment and all of the parts to make these things. And I think that's important as an entrepreneur.
Yep.
You got to go through that so that you understand what you're doing. But as we've grown, we've needed more manpower, and so there is a nonprofit downtown, a refugee collection. It's a nonprofit that employs refugees here in Austin that have sewing skills. And so through this partnership with it's called the Multi Refugee Collection here in Austin. Through this partnership, we've been able to provide these refugees with a livable wage, and in exchange, they're helping us, scale our business, and so it's a win-win. So from every angle, it seems like there's so much good that's happening, and so I find myself torn sometimes every day where I want to be, whether it's in the salon environment or if it's Lucky Dog, because I'm having so much fun with the Lucky Dog right now. So yeah, that partnership with the Refugee Collection has been instrumental in helping us scale the business so that we can continue to grow. So that's been fun. That's been fun to work with those ladies at the Refugee Collection here in Austin.
And what a blessing that is for them, because they're being paid for the skill they have, and they're
Yep.
learning a new skill, or they're participating in a wonderful process that's helping people. So you're helping them, they're helping rescue dogs too, sort of circuitously, but still they're getting the
I
collars
think I
out
lost
there.
you.
How can people find you?
So Lucky Dog, you can find us at on Instagram. That's where we're probably the most active, is on Instagram, and the handle is at Lucky plus Dog. So it's all spelled 3 words, Lucky PLUS Dog. That's our hashtag. That's where you can find us. And then online, of course, you can find us. Our website address is luckyplusdog.com, all spelled
And
out.
it's the PLUS, not the plus sign.
That's right. Right.
It's like
You look
Hamilton Law and Mediation. It's not the ampersand.
exactly.
It's
Yep.
hard. It's hard. You have to spell these things out. I am so
Yep.
glad you came on Why Do Pets Matter, because I love what you're doing. You started a business that was completely from your heart. You wanted to do
Yep.
something different. You wanted to help people who had pets. You wanted to start some, business where you succeeded, absolutely, but not without thinking about the community as a whole, both the pet owning community and now also people who are working to make a better life. So I love this,
Yeah.
Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been fun. And then I feel like, there's so much ahead of us. There's so much more that we want to do. So just stick
We'll
around.
have you back on so you can let us know what that more is. So everyone,
Yeah.
don't forget to look for Lucky Plus PLUS dog and follow them. And if you really want to have a great tracker for your pets, please look at the beautiful collars that are attached to the FI and pick one up, because not only are you taking good care of your dog, maybe great care of your dog, but you're also helping others. So until next time, Chris, thank you so much for being here. Everyone,
Yeah.
please like and share, give us 5 stars, because you found us. Now I'd like your friends to find us as well. So take care, give a
Uh,
kiss to all your pets, your dogs, your cats. Um,
Thanks, Deborah.
you're very welcome, Chris. Take care, everyone.